My assistant was a saint. The system failed her, and the preacher insulted her. I'm still not over it. I'm 52 years old. At this age, you start to believe you've felt the full weight of the world. You've seen the market crashes, the betrayals, the way a long marriage can turn into a quiet house. You think your skin is thick enough to handle anything. But then there was Kelly. Kelly wasn't my wife. She wasn't my sister. She was my assistant. But using that word, assistant, feels like a lie. It's like calling a lighthouse a flashlight. She was the person who kept the waves from crashing over the deck of my life for years. She was the smartest, funniest, most vibrantly alive person I've ever known. But this isn't just a story about a great employee. This is a story about a medical system that I believe was too lazy to save her. It's a story about a man of God who turned her funeral into a nightmare. And most of all, it's about a terrifying pattern I still can't explain. You see, in Kelly's world, everything happened in cycles. Specifically, cycles of 8 months. 8 months of hope, followed by 8 months of wreckage. Over and over again, like a clock no one could stop. If you've ever felt like the universe has a personal vendetta against the kindest people you know, if you've ever looked at a tragedy and realized the math just doesn't add up, you need to hear this, because I've spent the last few years trying to understand why a saint was treated like a sacrifice, and I'm still waiting for an answer. Let's go back to the beginning. Before the hospitals, before the black suits. When Kelly first interviewed with me, she didn't try to sell herself. She sat across from my desk, looked at the chaotic mountain of files I'd let pile up, looked at the coffee stain on my tie and said, "You're drowning, aren't you? Move over, let me fix this." And she did. Within a month, the office didn't just feel organized, it felt safe. She had this sixth sense. She knew which clients were bluffing about their budgets. She knew that if I was staying past 6 o'clock p.m., I'd probably forgotten to eat lunch, so she'd accidentally order an extra sandwich and leave it on my desk as she walked out. I remember a Tuesday morning. We were dealing with a client we called the Shark. This guy made a living out of making grown men cry in negotiations. He was leaning over my desk, his face turning a deep shade of purple, shouting about a contract clause. Kelly walked in. She didn't flinch. She just set a cup of coffee down in front of him. He didn't even look at her. He just kept shouting. She stood there, crossed her arms, and said, "Bill, you're too old to be throwing tantrums. The coffee is hot, and page 14 actually says exactly what you want it to say. Now sit down and drink." The Shark actually sat down. He took a sip, looked at the page, and apologized. That was the Kelly effect. She wasn't just the help. She was the stabilizer. She lived for her family. She talked about her great guy of a husband as if they were still teenagers. And her 2 boys? She'd show me photos of them at soccer games, her face glowing. "They're good men, boss," she'd say. "I got lucky." But the truth is, we were the lucky ones. We were living in the golden hours, and we didn't even know it. We didn't know that the 8-month clock had already started ticking. The first crack happened on a mundane Tuesday. She had a cough, a dry, annoying little thing. She laughed it off for a month. "Allergies," she'd say. Then came the day she didn't show up. Then the day after that. When she called to tell me it was cancer, the light in the office just died. I told her, "Kelly, your desk is yours. Your paycheck is guaranteed. You just fight." For 4 months, she went through the meat grinder of chemo. If you've never seen it up close, it's a robbery. It steals your hair, your energy, the very color of your skin. I visited her home once. She was wearing a headscarf, her skin translucent, but she still had a legal pad next to her bed. She had written down 3 things I needed to remember for a meeting 2 weeks away. I had to literally take the pen out of her hand. Then, the miracle. The oncologist gave her the all clear. He said she was cancer-free. We threw a party. We cheered. She came back to work, and for 8 months, It felt like we had cheated death. But this is where my blood starts to boil. I look back at those 8 months now, and I realize it wasn't a victory. It was a stay of execution. I'm convinced that oncologist was lazy. I think he was so enamored with being the hero that he stopped looking for the villain. He saw a reduction on a scan and called it a cure. He gave a mother of 2 a false sense of security and let her stop the aggressive treatments. He let the fire smolder in the basement while we were upstairs celebrating that the smoke had cleared. He didn't just miss a diagnosis. He stole her window of opportunity. He gave her 8 months of peace that ultimately cost her her life. The universe has a cruel sense of irony. Exactly 8 months after Kelly was declared healthy, her husband, her great guy, was diagnosed with a nasty, aggressive form of cancer. It was like a sick joke. Kelly had just finished being the patient, and now she was the nurse. She was balancing a full-time job, 2 terrified teenage boys, and a husband who was slowly disappearing. I'd tell her to go home, but she'd stay. She needed the normal. And then, the hammer fell. 8 months after his diagnosis, Kelly went for a checkup. She thought she was just tired from taking care of him. The news was catastrophic. The cancer wasn't just back, it was everywhere. It had metastasized into her bones and her lungs while we weren't looking. It was incurable. I'll never forget the phone call. I was sitting at my desk, looking at a report she had organized. Her voice was too steady. "Cancer is back," she said. I felt like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. But before I could even process it, she added, "And my sister died of a heart attack this morning." I sat there at 52 years old, and I felt like a child. I didn't know what to say. Her husband was terminal. She was terminal, and her sister was dead. All in the same breath. She apologized to me on that call. She apologized because she wouldn't be able to finish the filing. That was Kelly. A saint in a hurricane. Kelly refused to give up. She worked until her body literally wouldn't let her stand. She would drive to the office at 7 o'clock a.m., finish her work, and leave for radiation at 9 o'clock a.m. I'd catch her in the hallway and plead with her. "Kelly, go home. Spend every second with your boys." She'd just fix my tie and say, "If I'm at home, I'm a patient. If I'm here, I'm your assistant. I like being your assistant better." 5 months later, she went into hospice. A month after that, she was gone. I spent the day she died in my office with the door locked, crying like a baby. Then came the funeral. We wanted comfort. Instead, we got a fire and brimstone preacher. This man didn't know Kelly. He stood over her casket and told us we were all walking on thin ice. He looked at those 2 teenage boys and told them that if we didn't clean up our acts, we'd face judgment, just like Kelly was facing judgment at that very moment. I was shaking. My knuckles were white. To take a life lived so loudly with love and turn it into a scare tactic? It was the most hollow display of religion I've ever seen. I wanted to stand up and shout, "She's done more for God in 40 years than you've done in 80. But I stayed quiet for the boys. I regret that silence every single day. 8 months later, that number again. Her husband died. He just couldn't stay without her. I went to his funeral. I found those boys. I gave them my cards and I told them, anything, I don't care if it's 10 years from now, I am here. They are both Facebook friends of mine now. I see their updates. They are men now. I see them graduate, start jobs, try to build lives out of the wreckage. I've reached out a few times. They don't respond. They leave it on read. And I get it. I'm not offended. I realized that to those boys, I am a walking, talking trigger. I am a ghost of their mother's office. Seeing my name is a bridge back to the hospital halls and that preacher's voice. So I stay in the background. I watch from a distance. But if they ever do call, I'm dropping everything. Because Kelly was the best of us. And the world is a lot darker without her. I hope she knows.